Hello and welcome to the West Yorkshire Football Show here live. I'm Stephen Brown and joining me is Jason Booker, and we're here to discuss all things Leeds United 2, Derby County 0. Jason, first of all, how are we doing, my friend?
Yeah, very good, mate. Very good. Nice relaxed Sunday. Just enjoying the F1 final race of the season today. Before Lewis goes off to Ferrari and it all starts all over again. Looking forward to next season. So yeah, all good, mate. Always better after a Leeds win as well, especially earlier on in the weekend. It's even nicer when it's Friday and then you can just enjoy the weekend. But the early kickoff kind of cemented your mood for the weekend, then, doesn't it? So.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Burnley Friday night dropping points. It was a nice little kind of walk into the weekend, wasn't it? We had that chance to return to top spot, and that's exactly what Leeds United did in what was a resounding victory, a really comfortable win. What we've seen at home, basically all of the season, bar the opening day weekend. A really dominant performance. Got some astounding stats, not necessarily on Leeds, but Derby County stats, which just paint a picture of what that game is like and what Leeds United are like at the moment. Jason, going into the game, the team obviously. There was obviously a debate around Manor Solomon. Is he going to kind of stake his place in the first team? I think a lot of people thought this was going to be kind of this year's Jadon Anthony, maybe, good sub option, that kind of thing. You called it early on. You said you thought he would be Farke's man that he would go to, just based on his abilities, his technical ability and what he's done in the past when he's been fit. And that's exactly what it seems. I mean, any surprises with that starting lineup? What did you make of it?
No, I mean, I think the only surprise could be the fact that he was kind of bold enough to make the move again and keep Nonto on the bench. Yeah. But I'll be honest with you, it's exactly the starting lineup I'd have started with. Given who was available and what was available to us, it's exactly how I would have gone. I think Perot's kind of, I think he has in and out games where he's not as involved games then when he is highly involved. He had a great chance yesterday again, but I think he's the out and out number one, number 9. I think he's the first choice number 9 now. I don't think Mateo's done enough and shown enough, and Pat is what he is. And then everything that kind of builds around him, I'll keep on maintaining it, and I'm going to keep on saying it, regardless of the fact that some people call me out on social media about it. Manor Solomon's our best attacker. I think technically he's our best player. Now his fitness is questionable, and whether he can manage the succession of games and whether he'll break down again. I'm happy to have that discussion with anybody with regards to his fitness, but with his ability, I think he's a step above. And, it weren't scintillating yesterday, but pretty much everything that he got involved in looked threatening, looked dangerous. He completed all of his passes yesterday. He was very astute with what he was doing with the ball. He was when he was making passes, he was putting passes into dangerous areas, into positions where the player receiving the ball could actually do something with it, rather than just always going sideways or always going backwards, always being reserved. And he all of it, it was 25 out of 25 passes completed yesterday. Most of the attacks came down the other side. And I had somebody try and push back at me on socials saying that when Verba scored the goal, Solomon was just stood around doing nothing. Actually, if you watch him, he hangs back and creates a massive space because Verba drags all the defenders towards a goal. If the ball's played back, Solomon's in complete open space. We don't do enough for that. We actually quite often congest ourselves by running towards the goal or running towards the ball. He's got that little bit of awareness that it just comes with the difference in quality. Just seeing Michael's point there about Largy or Dan James. We haven't seen enough of Largy Ramazani. I love what we've seen of Ramazani. Potentially, he's probably got the capabilities to be the best of the lot, but you've seen him for 3 starts in a Leeds shirt. Dan James is our most effective winger. I've said this as long as I can remember being on this channel, Brownie, especially in the Championship. He at this level, he scares defenders to death. I would absolutely agree with the fact he's the most effective, but technically he's not better than Manor Solomon or Willie Nonto or Largy Ramazani. So, yeah, I think the way that he started yesterday, I thought Dan James was excellent. I'm going to get battered for certain bits that I say tonight, I think, today. But, Aronson, I know that he's been bashed for being wasteful. I saw some people saying, well, worst player on the pitch. It's just not true. He created 3 of it. He was the highest maker of big big passes, key passes. That's the word I'm looking for. Key passes. His effective press when we're not on the ball is so important to the way that this team ticks. He's responsible for winning the ball back several times because the defender for Derby will have to shank the ball long and it'll go out for a throw-in or it'll go back to our defence. That doesn't happen without the press set from Brendan, and I just appreciate that. Like, I appreciate that not more than what he then does on the ball, because he can be wasteful on the ball, but it balances out his effectiveness on the game.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think
no, you've absolutely started on that front. I definitely wanted to get into the Aronson stuff. Just a bit of admin. Please do like the video. Get subscribing to the channel. We're live on YouTube and X. So if you're watching us on either, please do give us a like for more content and Leeds United and our other teams across West Yorkshire. And if you're watching this video again later, please do leave a comment. Do you agree, disagree? What were your thoughts on yesterday's games? Gav, afternoon, guys. Afternoon, Gary. Michael, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us. Skip, afternoon, guys. Another big 3 points and overall a good team performance, but we are so much in need of that proven quality number 10 to run the midfield and create when we are struggling. The Aronson debate had kind of raged all week. My feeling on Aronson was, I think he's performed very well this season, and I agree with you in terms of what he does with the press, and I certainly think if you've got Pirou up front, you need an Aronson kind of doing the legwork, as it were. I did think his performance had just started to tail off a bit. I felt, and I think that's okay. I mean, one of my kind of complaints with Harker was mix it up a little bit more. Just for me, yes, if Nonto had been played in the 10 or Solomon and Aronson had been rested, great. However, I've got to say, I did think Aronson were effective. What I'd see with Aronson is, when you're looking at like technical ability, I put him in the Dan James camp, where it's, I mean, there was one part where Aronson, he got the ball, he tried to do like a lob pass, and he didn't get it anywhere near. And I was like, if you were watching that game and you had to pick out a player that had played in the Champions League, it would absolutely not be Brendan Aronson. Technically, you look at him, and sometimes he does that Dan James thing where it's kind of passes are not quite, and he does that a lot. But you get that kind of effectiveness. And what I admired about his performance yesterday was he just kept trying, and he's physically always there. And in the end, like Dan James, something happens. Yeah, something happens and gets it.
As well, I think he deserves a lot of credit for the way that he's not just bulked up physically, but mentally, he gets back up from challenges. When he first came, he'd stay down, he'd fall over all the time. He doesn't fall over all the time. Sometimes he gets physically outmatched. He's a smaller player, but he gets on with it. He runs back and tries to win the ball back. His attitude has completely changed towards the way that he reacts when he loses the ball. And I think that's fair enough. That's all you can ask for. And I think, for everything that he kind of loses in terms of composure, technical ability at times, I think he just makes up for in guile and determination. And there's a lot to be said for that. Like, it's an understated value in a team. Jorginho Rutta's a far better technically gifted player, and he's far more pleasing to watch. But in terms of what actually suits his team better, I still can't look past what Brendan gives us in that role. And I know that's it's just like he's under such a microscope at times. Like, oh, look, he's lost the ball again. But Jorginho would lose the ball 5, 6, 7 times, and just some fans would just be like, yeah, he's the best player ever. And it just won't matter. I just don't think it's fair given what he gives us in comparison. But I don't think the agenda attached to Brendan is the same as what's attached to Solomon. I think people are far fairer with Brendan and understand what that it's far closer parity in terms of being fair. Whereas Manor, it's just a case of some fans just see him as shit for no reason. Some fans see that he's on 50 grand and he's not worth it. Some fans see the fact that he's on loan and think that he shouldn't play because he's on loan. It's just bizarre. Some people have got the political issues attached to it. It's just a very weird mix within the fan base, what happens to certain players.
Yeah, I mean, the thing with Farker as well, Solomon's his type of player, someone that technically gifted who can retain possession and like you say, he's clever as well. How he uses space and doesn't lose the ball. That's what he wants. Gavin Aronson, okay, but his composure on goal is shocking. Yeah, I mean the thing with Aronson as well is because I was hoping this season he would kind of get that redemption arc, and I think he has had that to a certain extent. I would love those numbers to kind of boom up. I would love him to be a goal scoring number 10 who's chipping in, constantly. I don't know, is he on for like 3 this season or something?
Yeah, 3 or 4, something like that.
I would love that. And look, there's a big question mark over him and a lot of the other players. If we do get promoted, are they good enough for that next level? That is absolutely a debate that's going to have to be had. But this level and what he gives this team, I think it certainly works so far. So yeah,
he hits the ball, doesn't he? Rather than try and pick in a spot when he's shooting. That's what Brendan does. He just hits the ball and hopes rather than actually trying to pick a spot. Dan James is a bit like that at times as well. I think you make a great point with regards to James and Aronson being of similar kind of ilk in terms of the way that they are as footballers. Maybe not the most, got the most composure or technical ability, but they make up for it in other areas. And as a team, you need all of it. So
do you know Aronson? And this will get pelters from people, but a technical player who's not that kind of incredible technically for Leeds, but was a bit of a legend for Leeds, and just through hard work, grit, determination, forged, a brilliant career at Leeds is Lee Boyer. I mean, Lee Boyer was not technically unreal, but he had that engine where he was like unstoppable, and he was only like quite a slight kind of guy, and he wasn't physically dominant, he wasn't up to Kuhl's level of technical ability or anything, but he just had that kind of work rate and endeavour, and that's someone Aronson can model themselves on, because at Leeds United is there were a point where Aronson flew into a tackle and everyone's on the feet, aren't they, in the stadium clapping him. Leeds fans love that. If you show us that, you're halfway there.
Yeah,
you might be a rubbish footballer, but how many kind of icons have we had at the club who've probably been rubbish footballers, but are just absolutely they've got all that kind of fight and spirit. And
we've had different versions of that over the years. I think of Stuart Dallas has been in that kind of category. I think before that of Andy Hughes has been in that category. Andy Hughes was technically so poor, but he left everything of himself out there. And, it's all about levels. At the time, we were League One and now we're in the Championship. Brendan Aronson is an unbelievable footballer for us to have in this level. He is. Sure, gives the ball away sometimes, but that comes with so much more.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Some of the performances yesterday, and we can't go without mentioning Joe Rodon scoring his first goal for Leeds, his first goal in English football, remarkably. So I'm kind of hoping it's like, the tap is going to be turned on now, Jason, and we're going to see a few more from Joe over the course of the season. Thumping header, everyone delighted for him. You could see his teammates were just there. It had that extra kind of panache to it because it's his first goal for the club and in English football. But brilliant to see. And Rodon, I'm really happy that he's kind of got up to this level, because there were a few kind of eyebrows raised at the start of the season. He had a shaky start, and it seemed to take a while for him to kind of get going. You wonder if there was a bit of a hangover from last season with what happened with Leeds, what happened with Wales. But it's another corner goal for Leeds all of a sudden, and hopefully, this is going to be a sign of things to come from Joe.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I think he's actually been excellent the last 4 or 5 weeks overall. He's really stepped up. He did start shaking. I mean, we saw it in pre-season. I remember against Harrogate has been like, what was that performance? It was so good all last season. And then the first, I'd say probably month of this season, he were a bit shaky. But I personally think he's the rock at the back now. I very rarely see a bad performance from him. I think his distribution's improved. Aerial, presence defensively has always been really, really good. His pace of recovery for a big centre-back is just ridiculous at times. And I think he dictates everything. I actually think he's the vocal leader on the pitch as well. When you're watching Leeds tick, it's him screaming and shouting. Joe Rothwell screaming and shouting. It's not Pascal really who's wearing the band. Or Sam Byram if he's on the pitch. It's not really them. It tends to be Rodon. So yeah, I think he's been excellent, mate. I think he's been excellent, and I thought he was brilliant yesterday. For me, he probably just squeaked man of the match away from Joe Rothwell, but either way, I think would have been fair.
Yeah, indeed. Skip, is it acceptable to think your centre-backs can get between 4 to 6 goals per season? For me, 100%. Well, yeah, you need goals from everywhere. And speaking of which, Max Ferber came on for Firpo. It's not quite happened for Firpo since coming back from the suspension. He's now injured. Not sure how kind of serious that's going to be. I think it's going to miss the Middlesbrough game. But I've got to say, for me, Max coming in, I was delighted that he got a goal, and I thought he looked very good. I mean, this is someone who is a centre-back, really. But he was up there, wasn't he? And obviously, I thought it was Peru at first who banged
I
it.
did.
I did like the size of him and everything. I thought,
yeah. He's got some body type, hasn't
he? Yeah, good finish, Joel. And then it's like, it's Max Verbo, kind of strolling away. Is there a chance for Max now to kind of stake a claim, potentially be the left back? The thing I like about him is I like how solid he is. And if he is going to have that kind of attacking, I mean, there was a part in the second half where he was right on the edge of Derby's box. And I'm thinking, well, fine. I think Firpo's been very good. But what I like about Max is that defensive ability. He's just got it, and Firpo doesn't. He makes us. It feels like it'll be a little bit more solid, and if he can still provide an attacking threat, I'm all for it.
I mean, I wildly staked that Max would start over Pascal if Pascal got an injury. I didn't think we'd see Pascal back in the team. I know it's hard for a lot of Leeds fans to kind of admit that Max Verber's a good footballer because of what he did last summer, and I hated what he did last summer as well.
Yeah.
But I just try and analyse the footballer. Did brilliant in the Bundesliga last season. They wanted him back. They couldn't afford, to pay them the money. I still think there's a chance that he might go in January if he's not guaranteed a spot in the lineup. I could see that happening. Now, if the position opens up for him to play left back in this team, the differences in this team is we have a lot of the ball. So while he's an out-and-out defender, he actually doesn't have to worry so much about defensive positioning at left back. He can still play there. He's played there for Austria. He's played in midfield for Ajax before he went over to it was Salzburg, wasn't
it?
Yeah. Before he went over to that part of Europe anyway. So he will be fairly comfortable with carrying the ball up the pitch and playing within possession. It looks like he really enjoyed attacking. He was constantly getting beyond Solomon, and obviously he took his goal great and got into a great area of the pitch. So I'm pretty excited by him playing that. I like Junior Firpo and what he's displayed over the last 12 months, but he's defensively he struggles, like he does. And going forward, I think we'll probably lose a little bit from it being this way around at Verber over Firpo. But I definitely think going the other way, I think we'll probably be far more consistent to be able to defend down that side. I think attackers would prefer to go against Junior Firpo than Max Verber, personally.
Yeah. And I mean, we were chatting on the Monday show, and Lewis made the point about it's great having all this attacking threat and everything, but if you've got that vulnerability at the back, it can be picked apart. And can you win the league? Can you be champions if you've got those kind of vulnerabilities? And I think it balances it really well with Max. And like you say, I agreed. I thought if Pascal, for whatever reason, injuries, suspension, and Max gets in there, I believed Max would be good enough to just take over that role, basically.
I agree.
But you never know. He might, like you say, he might get this opportunity now at left back. And, I hope he stays, and I hope, something can work there, because I think I don't really want the disruption of losing him in January.
I agree.
I mean, he's an unbelievable level of a sub. The fact that, he's being sub, I mean, it is ridiculous, Jason, to have someone who was starting in the European Championships on your bench. I mean, I would argue a little bit, and people won't like this. I personally think Pascal Strauch, possibly Melia as well, have been given too much credence a little bit. I think because they've been quite long-standing members of the club and the squad, I think they've kind of maybe a little bit been overplayed potentially, even by Farken himself, maybe in terms of their importance. But that might be unfair, but I just think I would have liked to have seen Max and Rodon get a chance together at some point, really. But
I think Melia is. Well, and I think you've got a point. I think Melia is definitely over-egged by the manager because he's trying to manage this situation and get the best out of the goalkeeper he's got. I think the value attached to Melia is the problem. I think we probably as a club value him at 15 to 20 million because of his age and what he's done at a relatively young age for a keeper. and no one else would want to pay that for him. So you kind of left either benching an asset and then playing somebody else over him, or you just try and play him through it. So I understand the position that we're in. I don't think the fan base rate Elliott, if I'm honest. I don't.
No.
Pascal, I think, is the other way. I think what's happened with Pascal is last season he had a lot of criticism, and I thought it was wildly unfair. Because you see, I sit in the middle with Pascal. I don't think he's terrible. I just think he's a good championship centre back. Last season he got a load of abuse from fans. What's happened is he's come back, and we've now seen an improvement on maybe Ampadu playing there from January onwards. You know, I know we had that good run, but I think people could make the case for the fact that it was better with Pascal and Rodon over Ampadu and Rodon overall, right? And I think what's happened is the people that defended Pascal have kind of now risen to the top, and that's the only vocal noise that's getting made. And it's now fashionable to kind of praise him for everything. Like, I see some of these clip montages that go around on social media, and it just makes me laugh. It's just 2 minutes of Pascal Struijk passing to Rodon and passing to Firpo and passing back to Rodon and passing to Meslier, as if it's like this highlight package. And then it'll be one decent pass into midfield. It's like, okay, nice one. Yeah, that were a good pass. Brilliant. But what they don't do is show all them mistaken passes, or the passes that on paper are received, so the one in the tick column for Pascal, but it's Tanaka stretching for it, or it's Rothwell stretching for it, or it's Solomon, stopping it going out of play and passing it straight back to him. It doesn't show any of that. It doesn't show his lack of concentration where the ball goes over the top of his head. That's not on the highlight package, and that for me just creates this illusion that he's this.
Don't you think he gets beat a lot? Don't you think he gets dribbled round and beat a lot? Like, was it a moment yesterday where he got dribbled round, and it's only because the guy overran the ball that the ball went out for a goal kick, but he got beat again in a situation where he's kind of one versus one, and it always seems to happen every game where someone gets past him.
Browney, I thought he had a poor game yesterday, and that's harsh because we won 2-0 and we were so dominant. But the moments in which Pascal had to defend, overall, if you were to look at them all over the whole stretch of the game, I actually thought he had a bad game. There were a moment where he flew out at left back spot in the second half, completely missed the ball. He were off the pitch at one point, and then the rest of the team were trying to get back and defend, and I'm like, where's Pascal gone? There were the moment 2 minutes in where another referee could have given a penalty against him. I didn't think it was a penalty. It'd have been soft, but he goes careering into back at attacker, who's looking for a foul. And I think the fan base gaslight themselves into thinking that he's this monster centre back. I think most of the time Joe Rodon's head and shoulders above him. I really do. Like I said, I'm not saying he's a bad defender. I keep on saying that time and time again because I don't think he is. I think he's just a perfectly capable championship centre back.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. Good stuff. Elsewhere on the pitch, I mean, Joe Rothwell, you mentioned there, ran Rodon close for man of the match. And I mean, Rothwell, he's kind of astounded us all this season. I mean, I just absolutely love watching this man play football. It really is a masterclass almost every time. Yesterday, I mean, every part of the game, creatively, in the tackle, he's just absolutely superb. He's just everywhere, isn't he, Jay? Yeah,
it was his best performance in the league yesterday. I mean, he were absolute, and he's had some really, really good ones, but he were flying into tackles. He were working himself into the ground all over the pitch. Like, his range of passing was excellent. His dribbles were excellent when he was carrying the ball into dangerous areas and then committing defenders. The conditions were pretty tricky yesterday, rain and the wind everywhere, and he was still spraying balls left and right. Like, I just thought it was brilliant yesterday. I'd like to see him get a few more shots on goal. That's the only criticism I can have of Joe Rothwell. Tanaka's doing 1 or 2 per game. I'd like to see Rothwell let go of a couple of chances, but it's minimal. And then his creme de la creme is his set piece delivery. Low and ball, we've started to improve in set pieces, attacking set pieces since Rothwell's got on him. His variance of deliveries and the way that he'll bullet a couple in and then he'll whip a couple in and both sides. He's just technically very, very good.
Ampadu made it back to the bench yesterday, and that's going to be a debate point that's going to kind of come up again and again until Ampadu's back in the side. Do you drop Rothwell or Tanaka? I don't think you can drop Tanaka, but the question mark is over Rothwell. But I mean, I just struggled, watching that performance yesterday. You think, how can you drop them? And also with the set pieces as well, you think, how valuable is that? I mean, I don't know what you do there with that, to be honest, Jess. I mean, that is a head scratcher and a half, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it is. I think, if we're going to open up this question a little bit more, I think there's a big difference between home and away. I think at home, you can play Brendan, you can play Rothwell and Tanaka, no problem. I think you could bring Ampadu in and drop Tanaka, no problem, and give yourself a little bit more defensive stability. I think away from home, I think it's a completely fair argument to say, right, okay, we drop Brendan and we play a midfield three of Rothwell, Tanaka, and Ampadu, or you just drop Rothwell into the 10. Now, I'm not. People again are getting way too carried away with the idea that Rothwell's just going to seamlessly fall into the 10 and it's going to look better than what Brendan's doing, because that's what people do. They've seen Joe Rothwell play well in the 6 or the 8 and think, right, okay, he can definitely do the 10 role the same as Brendan Harris. He can't. Let me tell you now, he can't. There will be things that he'll bring to the position that'll be better than Brendan. There definitely will be, but there'll be a lot that we'll lose as a result of that too. I know Rothwell burst a gun a couple of times to make a couple of tackles yesterday, but he is not going to do the pressing as effectively as what Brendan does. He's just not. Yeah. So, and he's not quite as jinky in them tight little pockets. His pass might be better, but he's not got the fleet of movement that Brendan has. So I think horses for courses, mate. It's going to be a real head scratcher once Ampadu's back to full fitness.
I think that's a great point, and I actually hope that Farke is a little bit more willing to look at the home and away game situation. Go, actually, we can do this. I would love to see that, because I think, absolutely. I mean, how do you go from the performance yesterday to what we saw last week? The difference is kind of massive, isn't it? And something like maybe dropping an Harrison, getting a Rothwell in there, or whatever that little thing is, great, try it. And Ampadu in there and Tanaka, you would think the defensive stability you would have there, hopefully could be replicated in what we're doing at home.
I also think Tanaka has got more in his locker to give us going forward than what he does in the current system, because I think he's the dropper and Rothwell's more the progressor. Tanaka's a 6 and Rothwell's the 8, whereas if he plays with Ampadu will be the 6 and Tanaka will be the 8. So yeah, I think it's a great problem to have, mate. It's a fantastic problem for Farke to have.
Just, we're going to obviously keep on yesterday's game and blah, 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 bigger picture stuff. But just looking at that bigger picture, do you think we need to be consciously doing something for the away games now? Looking at our kind of away form kind of recently, whatever, in these occasional losses that seem to pop up. Do you think something needs to happen now where it is maybe a slight change in personnel or formation? Is that what you were looking for Farke to do now, or are you happy with? Because he likes to roll out pretty much the same kind of tactics and team every game.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I would like to see us go a little bit more direct when we're playing away from home. I still think, having control over the game is fine, but away from home, you're going to get space in behind a lot more than you would do ordinarily, certainly at Ellen Road. I mean, Derby gave us a little bit in behind yesterday, but predominantly teams, camp in, sit back, and it's difficult to get in behind. I'd like to see a couple of balls in behind to James and Solomon. We did it yesterday with Solomon, especially a couple of times in the first half. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Gets the opponents turning round, facing their own goal. We've got good attackers in good positions. Like, why are we not kind of sometimes just changing that up and doing that? I definitely think we've got defensive instabilities when Ampadu and Gruever are out of the side. And I think away from home, that would just give us that bit of reassurance. Blackburn were able to create way too many chances against us, as an example. They have 4 or 5 really good chances. Yeah. I mean, I still think we could have got all 3 points out of the game. We certainly were probably good for a point. But if Blackburn had have also beaten us 3-0, you couldn't have probably argued with the chances that they had. They had some really good chances. So, yeah, I think it's a completely solid argument to have, mate. It's horses for courses, different home and away, can make a big difference. I mean, at home, we are untouchable. We're literally untouchable.
Yeah, I mean, I take Sheffield again. You watch that and you go, how do we not get promoted?
It's just so easy.
We're just so, head and shoulders above the opposition, aren't we? Yeah. It's crazy. Guys, if you're watching along, if you're following us on YouTube, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel as well, get your comments in. And if you're watching along on X, please give us a retweet, get your comments in and follow the page as well. So some of the other players just to have a look at from yesterday's game. Do we do enough for our strikers? Do we give enough opportunity for our strikers? I mean, Peru yesterday, I feel like they don't get really, they're not given many things on a plate. It seems to be all about the wingers, really, in terms of an attacking sense. The centre forward kind of doesn't seem to. I'm trying to think of a Peru chance. I can only think of the 35 yards outside the box where he blocked it over.
He did have a great chance. The one that the keeper saved, it were an absolute worldie of a save. I mean, that's a goal. That's a goal if it's Melier down to the keeper's left hand side, and he literally fingertipped it down the post.
Yeah. Oh, and it tripled, didn't it? Yeah.
I thought it were a certain goal when Peru were, because what Peru does great in his finishes is he drives them on ground level. It makes it almost impossible for the keeper to save, and the keeper somehow managed to get a fingertip save to it. It was beautiful save.
Well, it was great. Do you think in general, though, would you be liking to? I would love to Pirro to get 3 or 4 of those chances in a game. And even when, Joseph was in the team, I don't feel like he, had that much in terms of supply and chances. It feels like that kind of role for us is, I don't know, because you look at, and obviously the thing that everyone said about Pirro last year was like, he's like a ghost, isn't he? He's not really involved in the games. And I mean, is that a problem, do you think? I mean, would you like to see us, I mean, the amount of goals he's scored, versus how many opportunities he gets is quite remarkable, really. I mean, I would love to see us be able to kind of give them a little bit more opportunities.
I hear you. I agree with you to a point, but I also see the fact that we create a load of chances and he's part of that build-up. And then when you look at the statistics, he's still our top scorer and he's still one of the top scorers in the division. The way modern day football is it's not, the number 9 often isn't actually bagging loads of goals nowadays. I just brought up the championship scorers chart on my second screen here. Borja Sainz is the top scorer in the division with 15. I didn't realise he was that far in front of the next player, to be honest. But he plays left mid. He's a left winger. Josh Madger's second. We know he had a blitzing start to the season. Then it's Tom Conway at Middlesbrough. Pirro's number 4. You know what I mean? With 7. You got Latilath and Hadji right up there. But then you've got, Finn Azars, Mehmeti, that Josh Brownell's up there. They're not strikers. There's a few strikers up there, but ultimately, striking isn't all about putting the ball in the back of the net anymore. It's about in the build-up. At Blackburn, he got pelters. I thought he was great in the first half. Pirro, I really did. I thought he linked the play brilliantly. But because we were 1-0 down, people just were like, oh, Pirro were crap. Whereas they just weren't, in my opinion, from what I saw, it weren't the case. I don't think we're carrying him, Gavin. I think he offers us something within the team that nobody else can. When Mateo Joseph plays there, I would say that we're carrying Mateo Joseph. Personally, when he started games, I would say that we're carrying him. But people are like, oh, he presses, so we're not carrying him, or he's offering something that Pirro don't. I'd rather have the man that is going to be ready to finish that chance in the moment, be there when we create it. But I hear you. I do hear you, but we create a lot of chances, don't we? Whoever it's created for, does it really matter? I'm not so sure.
No, exactly. Absolutely. Willie Gnonto was left on the bench yesterday. Surprised a lot of people. I think Farkas come out and said the suspension situation has been part of it because it resets now their yellow cards. So obviously he's
been banned on it.
So whether that's what it actually was or not, I don't know. Nancy Froston, friend of the show, the Athletic Leeds United's correspondent, she's written an article today saying, what a dilemma it's got. Leeds have got 4 absolutely outstanding wingers now. I mean, Ramazani, when Ramazani comes on for these last 10, 15 minutes, there's just something about the way he carries the football and
scary,
the sharpness. And you're just thinking, wow, it is kind of tantalizing. You're like, oh, I'd love to, when he gets back into the team to start, you think, I can't wait to see that. But then you go, well, who do you drop? Who do you drop? You can't drop James. You can't drop Solomon. There's Gnonto fit in. I mean, it's a conundrum and a half. Were you surprised to see Gnonto out of it yesterday? Or, I mean, Gnonto's form for me has kind of been wavering for a while. And I think that's good. I don't see any problem with if a player is declining or if those performances aren't quite happening, or even if it's a player where the fan base and the marketing is like, which is what's happened with Willie. It's like they are the greatest things since sliced bread. I love it. I love it when they get a kind of kick up the arse. and a shot in the arm going where you can't just stroll through performance. You can't just turn up and you know, expect to be playing all the time if you're not doing it on the pitch. So I don't mind that. I really don't mind that. I think that's a healthy thing. I think Peru coming back in for Joseph is a similar thing. It's like, yeah, you haven't quite done it, so somebody else is going to come in and do the business.
Yeah, I agree completely. I mean, just before I say what I'm going to say on that, Brendan is actually our second top scorer with four. Yeah. So he's trending for about 12 goals this season.
Yeah,
it's pretty good going, really. Yeah. But yeah, getting back to your point, we are in an extremely privileged position, Browney, where we have 4 top championship wingers. Literally, all 4 of them would play for every other team in the division. They'd start. Burnley and Sheffield United are our most direct competition. Burnley start Jadon Anthony week in, week out. He couldn't even start in our team and wouldn't start. He'd be 5th choice out of these 5 that we've got. So, we're extremely, extremely lucky. So, for me, if Daniel Farke makes a habit of rotating all 4 of their minutes and making sure that every time they step onto the pitch, they are ultimately as fresh as they could possibly be, how lucky are we to be able to have that? I don't think it needs to be, James has played unbelievably well. He has to start every game. Same for Solomon, same for Nonto, same for Ramazani. Share the minutes between the 4 of them, and you are absolutely wrecking this league. So, yeah, if he goes about it in the way that it seems like he's gonna, because I think he is, I think it's going to continue like this. I think it's going to be Nonto and James and Ramazani and Solomon. He likes Nonto on the right, doesn't he? He likes James on the right. James is definitely better on the right. Solomon's only going to play on the left by the looks of it. And it looks like Ramazan is the same. He tends to either play on the left or more centrally. It's a great problem to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you can mix it up like that, you're laughing at you really, and it's got to be used. Just to come to some of your comments, Simon commenting on what we were chatting about earlier, agree that Pascal gets dragged out and turned far too easily, which was the case under Bielsa, which would be a huge problem in the Premier League should Leeds get there. Well, for me, there's it's big question marks about starting strike in the Premier League if we get there. Gavin, it's the clinical factor that still worries me. 2-0 yesterday, should have been 4-0. Skip, I'm not Farke out, but if he gets us promoted, does he deserve a shot in the Premier League with us, or do the 49ers need to be ruthless and get in a proven manager? For me, I think that you do give him a chance if he gets us up, because he's achieved his objective. He's achieved it in the time frame that he's kind of, this season or nothing really. I would be happy to give him a chance. I think there is an argument, however, if the 49ers have the kind of top option in their mind, if they have someone on that short list that comes available, I'm not saying, obviously not an Arne Slot or Iraola like we were linked before, but if there's someone of that ilk, that quality where there's an opportunity to go get them, I am not against them doing that. As harsh and as kind of terrible that is on Farke, I'm not against that, because I think Farke's had 2 bites at the apple before, and he's dropped the bomb. However, if he gets backed, if Leeds are able to, sign players, if they're able to spend the money that Norwich couldn't spend when he was there with them, let's see. Let's see how that pans out. It would be fascinating to see, because this kind of possession-heavy style, I mean, it'd take a lot to replicate that in the Premier League. You wouldn't be looking at that kind of week in, week out. So it would be fascinating. I think, like we've said before, it'd be a short leash. I think you could only give him 10 games at the max. And if it's looking, not happening, you bullet in. But it's going to be interesting.
I think there's, he had £5 million to spend at Norwich, and a squad that really should have never been in the Premier League anyway. And like, if you'd have only given Bielsa £5 million to deal with that first season, we'd have gone up, we'd have probably gone down as well. So, I think it'd be extremely hard. I think there's a lot of damage done in just bulleting a manager that's potentially won you the league or got you automatic promotion with the players. Them players are playing for Farke.
It's just treating them as disposable, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of damage attached to that. I think there's a lot. Now, don't get me wrong, I understand the argument around it, but I think it'd do more harm than good. Agree with you completely. It's an extremely short leash. If we're in Southampton's position now, as an example, that they're finding in the Premier League, one win or 1 point in, I can't even remember how many games it is now, but then you're asking questions. But I definitely think it would be very, very unwise and unfair if we won the league for him to just be bulleted in the summer. Yeah. He's built up a way with this team over 2 years, and he'll have completed, like you say, his objective, won't he? So,
yeah. Interesting. Kicked off at 3:00. West Bromwich Albion versus Sheffield United, and West Brom are winning 1-0. Gavin, Agent Carlos, indeed. Going to be interesting if it stays that way. Just checking the stats now. West Brom completely dominant in that one as well. Just to have a quick look at Derby as well, because the brilliant X account, LUFC Data, if you're on Twitter or X or whatever, you need to give LUFC Data a follow, because some interesting stuff always pops up after the match. But I just want to kind of go through these stats and kind of what this implies as Leeds as a bigger picture of what we're doing this season. So the match stats from yesterday: Derby registered their only shot on target after 80 minutes. They were reduced to accumulating an open play XG of 0.04, completed just 48 final third passes, and Derby failed to create one big chance. And their manager, Paul Warne, kind of looked shell-shocked afterwards and just kind of admitted Derby were completely blown away, and it was, a completely different level Leeds were operating on. And we're seeing this kind of time and time again at home, aren't we, Jason? The dominance like this, it's remarkable, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. To be able to do it so consistently is staggering, really. Man City have done this in the Premier League for years, and look at what they're going through now. To be able to maintain this level, I think we're now 5 clean sheets in a row at home. Is it 8 wins in a row or 7 wins in a row, something like that? We have a serious domination, and we deserve to beat Burnley, or we certainly deserve something out of that game, and we probably should have beat Portsmouth as well. So, it can't really get that much better at home, and it's built through the man that apparently has no tactics. All about players. Trust me, you can just turn up to Thorpe Arch this week and command the players to do what they do in training all week to get ready to play like that on a Saturday. I promise you, and I think some of it comes back to this argument around it being boring. It takes so much discipline to be able to work that. The seconds that we're playing the ball between Rodon and Pascal and into Tanaka and back into the back line and stuff, that is just moving the opposition around. And they, within that setup, within that tactic, they will see a movement of a defender and they'll be like, right, boom, that's our key, that's our trigger. That's the way it works. That's our trigger to pass there and to pass it. And then patterns are played. They don't happen by accident. They are drilled by the coaching staff throughout the whole week to then see, transmit to what we see on the Saturday. And same goes defensively. These clean sheets don't happen by accident. They happen a lot in part because we keep so much possession. But defensively, we are well set up as well. We do defend extremely well. Derby, number one from corners and from set pieces, number one goals from set pieces in the whole division. Didn't look like scoring against us yesterday, and that's been a bit of our Achilles heel. Are you telling me that he hasn't worked on that all week? It's just so unfair when we don't give the manager the props, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think there was a bit of a feeling last season that kind of happened where, relying on Somerville and Rutter and Nonto to a certain degree, but wouldn't you do that with their individual ability anyway? You would want to kind of let them off the leash, wouldn't you? And say, look,
don't feel like that now, does it?
You go and hurt the team, you go and hurt the team there. Yeah, exactly. And I think, there's a guy for the Athletic, Adam Crafton, who he put a couple of tweets out about saying Leeds don't look well coached, and he's done it a couple of times in the playoff final. He put a tweet out saying Leeds don't look well coached.
Who put this, sorry?
It's an Athletic writer called Adam Crafton. He's quite a big name for the Athletic and a big sports journalist. And I think that little things like that did plant a seed where people are going, God, is Farke kind of not tactically astute? What are they doing all week? Because this guy implied that there's no patterns of play. We had that debate in the summer, didn't we? Patterns of play, and do we have attacking patterns and all this kind of thing? And I think what you've seen this season is without that kind of Rutter Somerville thing, we've created something actually that it is. It's clearly worked on. It's devastating when it works.
I agree with you completely. And I also think there's a lot to be said about playing against low blocks every week. It's extremely difficult to play against 11 players that are just sat in 40 yards outside their own goal. It's extremely difficult. You've got 11 players that are all plugging all the spots. And bear in mind, they're going to have been working on it all week as well. So sometimes when we don't, we're not at a scintillating best, the opposition trying to do something to stop us being at our best. Too many Leeds fans, I think, just think, it's all about what we do. It's nothing to do with the opponent. As for Gavin's point there, we're not clinical, though. Yeah, I agree. It's part of being in the Championship. It's part of being playing with Championship players. We did exactly the same under Bielsa. We had that conversation, seemed to be week in, week out under Bielsa as well. And at the end of the day, that's not on the manager. The manager creates a tactic to create them chances. The player then has to finish it off. He can't come on and put the ball in the back of the net. So again, I just don't think that that's an argument you can label at the players. The other week when we beat Swansea, we scored 4 from 4. So they can do it. 4 shots on target, 4 goals. So yeah,
it's funny how that works in football. Sometimes you'll have a team that's so dominant and they'll have 25 shots and not put the ball in the back of that, and then the team counter-attacking, 1 chance, 1 goal. Suddenly, it's weird, isn't it? How they're suddenly clinical from one, and the other team.
Yeah.
It's just bizarre how it works sometimes. A couple of comments here, Michael. Norwich City had contingency plans on promotion to the Premier League. They were not going to give far money to spend on players, and should they get relegated, they'd sell their bright prospects. Moving ahead, looking ahead, games coming thick and fast. Gavin says, do we take a point against Middlesbrough? So it is Borough at home. Obviously, that was, certainly by my regard, the worst performance of the season against Borough in the Cup. It was a real bad week for us. So it's a rare, wasn't it? I mean, it was, it was just, it was definitely not a reflection on what we are as a team. And I mean, we were really kind of, our heads were screwed at that point.
Yeah.
We solved Rutter, I think.
Rutter got announced that night, and the players had found earlier on in the day.
It was just a depressing, horrible time, wasn't it?
I think, had we lost at the weekend?
Was it on the back of Portsmouth? Was it just after the Portsmouth game?
It might have been. Yeah, I think it was.
And that really unsettled everyone.
Yeah, it was.
And we had left a bad taste in mouth.
Well, we had a big change in the team as well, didn't we? If you remember, the whole 11 were different pretty much.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of fans are getting very hung up on that game and thinking, Borough are this big bad wolf. And don't get me wrong, Borough are one of the better sides in the division. But Sheffield United have come to Ellen Road and got played off the pitch. With the exception of Burnley in a game again, which we should have taken something from, we've dominated everybody that we've come across at Ellen Road. So sure, it should be probably more difficult than maybe some of the games that we've seen more recently. Your derbies, your QPRs, and these kind of teams that come to Ellen Road and don't really stand much of a chance. It's probably going to be more difficult than that. But I put it in the same kind of category as Sheffield United, and we absolutely outclass Sheffield United. So I'm not worried by Middlesbrough, if I'm honest. Finn Azaz is a baller. He's their main man. Goals and assists, he's a bit of a worry. But yeah, keep him quiet. I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, it'll be a good barometer for where we are, and if we continue that home form, hopefully we'll be steady away. We'll follow it up with a trip to Preston next weekend. Another 12:30. Are you a fan of these 12:30 kickoffs, or does it always feel a bit kind of? It's a bit slow to get going, isn't it?
When we win,
morning. Yeah, when we win, we'll take it. But yeah, sometimes these kickoff times are kind of all over the place, aren't they? Especially when we're playing away from home. I don't know. It just feels like we've always got some awkward bloody time to play.
I don't mind it, if I'm honest, because it allows me to get about my day a little bit more. I'm a bit of a stickler because my day's on hold until I've watched the football. You know what I mean? In my own head, I'm like, I can't do anything until I've watched the Leeds game. So, but yeah, I think it's all about meeting TV times and stuff in it. We're used to it in Leeds, aren't we? Especially in the Championship, the games just get moved all over the place for us, don't they? So, yeah, I don't think the players can make too much of a noise around it, if I'm honest.
No. Gavin says, time we beat Preston away. Was that the Melier sending off last year, the Preston away?
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully not.
Pascal equalised with a penalty and then we conceded later.
Yeah, I mean, it would be good to kind of set a marker, wouldn't it, away from home and just kind of get, not that it's a monkey on our back, but just put that to bed that we're not the same team away from home.
I'm caught in a bit of a middle ground with this like away form thing, because I made the point to you last week that it's actually not that bad. I think, add on the 2 points that we should have had at Sunderland, and we were like, I think 3 points off the best away performance in the division. So how much of a problem it is, I'm not sure. I think we need to see another couple of games yet. But sure, it'd be nice to go there and pick up 3 points. We need to keep on winning games now. We do need to try and create a 3 to 6 point buffer over third place, so then we can afford to drop a point or 3 even every now and again. You know what I mean? And then win another 4 or 5, then drop 1 again. You know what I mean? Like, we need to be able to do that. So,
what is going on here?
I just scored 2 in.
What? What is going on? Like Gavin says, the blunts are not going away. Oh well.
I think they're the second best side in the division, but I think we've already seen that we're far better than them.
Have they surprised you a bit, Sheffield United? No,
I think their 11 is as good as any in the division. I think they've got a really strong 11. Wilder it surprised me a little bit because I thought he would completely shot, but he's obviously managing to create something going there. I think that once you get into the second half of the season and their squad gets tested a little bit, I think they'll probably fall off from the pace of winning the league. But I definitely think they'll be in and around the contention for automatic all season. I think Wilder and their 11 are far better than Burnley's.
Yeah,
personally.
Yeah, and look, we only need top 2, don't we?
I don't care.
Jason, before we go, any other comments on yesterday's game or the week ahead?
No, I think, again, great performance yesterday. You can't really ask for much more. People go very quiet on Falcao and all this when we win, and then just come back in the droves when we lose. And I think we just need to be a little bit more positive, enjoy it a little bit more than what we have. I seem to say this a lot. Do you reckon Ipswich and Southampton are enjoying what's going on in the Premier League right now? I don't think so. And I'm not saying that that'd be us if we were there, but we're top of the league. Like, have a day off, man. You know what I mean? Try and enjoy it a little bit. And don't be scared by Middlesbrough. Like, I go there, I go into the game. I go into every game at Ellen Road expecting us to win in this division. Every single one. So, onto it.
Business as usual. Good stuff. Well, thank you, everybody who's been watching along live and getting your comments in. If you've been watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel and you give the video a like as well. And if you're watching us again later on YouTube, please do the same. Like, subscribe, get your comments in as well. And if you're following us on X, please do retweet and obviously follow the page too. I've been Stephen Brown. Joining me this afternoon for this Leeds United review has been Jason Booker. Jason, thank you very much.
Thank you, mate.
And we will see you again soon. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.